but I am always really nervous. So thank you for letting me vent and shoot the shit for a second. I don't know why. Like when it's just like without that buffer, it's weird.
No, I get it. I mean, like I look at it as a thing where, everybody's got like their best friend and then they've got like their best friend's friend. And when the best friend leaves the room and it's you and the other friend, that like, each other.
Yeah, I'm like,
before, but never alone.
I'll do it solo.
Yeah.
I don't care.
No, but I get it. I'm not saying I'm not saying like he's the best friend, but like I feel like when you lose like that third person dynamic, like, what do we do?
Yeah. What's the first step again?
What's your favorite color? It's weather outside. It's weather.
Yeah, right. Life is lifing.
Yeah.
So 2024 feels like it should already almost be over.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok the other day, and it was just like January has 2,227,000 days in it. I was just like, yeah, it's like, I don't know who you are, man. And it's just this dude on his piano, and he's just like singing happily, but like the lyrics are depressing as fuck.
They're very sad.
And his wife is just sitting in front of him, just like, yeah, fuck this. What is January? And I was like, yeah, man, you nailed it.
Did one. She was like, so how's your 2024 been? And somebody in the background goes, we still have 11 months left. And she's like, fuck.
It's something, man. I can't say I remember feeling like this in any past January. And I don't know if it's just like, the times or like, the point I'm at in my life. I'm like, but I'm looking around. I'm like, everybody else kind of feels like this is bullshit too. I'm like, all right. So.
I think the impending election, I try not to talk about politics on the show, but I think we all know by about January, there's this onslaught of like negative ads and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we're all just bracing. Like,
I mean, I'm looking at this and like for the first time ever, and I get it. If you want to air any of this, it's fine. But like for the first time ever, I'm like, okay, the two-party system is bullshit. Like we got to.
I've always thought the two-party system was bullshit.
Like up until about 6 months ago, I was like, all right, listen, we just gotta vote, vote blue no matter what. Like not screaming it like that, but I'm like, shit, that's just like that's what we got to do because like lesser two evils are. And then I'm looking at this and I'm like, they both suck. I'm like, I forget who it was, but one person was like, you know why like Trump is so successful and why the right loves him so much because he like for the most part just like speaks his fucking mind and like you can see him for what he is versus like you look at guys like basically Democrats all around. They say a bunch of things and then they do all these other things that are kind of insidious. And you're like, well, but you said you weren't going to do that. And you said you were going to do these things. And then you are doing those things. You're not doing these things. Like, what the fuck are we doing over here? And like, I look at this and yeah, no, they all are. Like, I saw an interview with AOC who like, I love.
For the love of God, please don't vote for Trump. Just.
No. But like I'm watching her and I'm like, all right, cool. And they're asking about like very topical things. I'm like, all right, sweet. And like she's dancing around the answer. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? What did like? And I'm like, what did they promise her, or what did they hold over her, or both? And like the more, I guess I learn about how politics actually work, which I feel like it's like partially like the age, and it's partially the times we're in, and partially just like we hit this age and you're like, shit, I got to start like peeling back the layers. I'm like, all right, so they're all shit. They're all varying levels of shit. Both sides, like like maybe some of them start off fiery and like and hold on to some of that, but like eventually. Something either gets held over them, good or bad, and then you kind of like watch them get muted. And I was watching this interview and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this sucks. So anyway, that's a depressing start. I'm happy though.
I'll make it, fuck it. I don't know. I try not to do politics on the show because it's so divisive and I want people to come here and listen to your music and listen to all the music. But at the same time, like, it's just like to the point where it can't be avoided anymore.
Yeah, and listen, like you, if you want to edit anything, it's your show, right? So like, do what you want to do. But like, I think I will say this, and you can figure out what you want to do with any of this. But like, while I agree that like music should be a place where people can come together, generally speaking, like it's also been used to like lift up other voices and call out the bullshit that's going on in the world. But anyway, I digress.
We have started this off real strong. So to the people who are still listening, this might be why we need Brent. Because he would have already been like, we're done.
Yeah, I feel like he would have squashed us.
You can't let Raynell off the leash a little bit because she'll just. I'm angry lately. So
speak the truth. But anyway, yeah, we can talk about music.
Let's do that. So I want to again apologize that the sound was so messed up on that interview with you and
that's
Artemis.
Not your fault. Like that.
I know, but you would think that I would have the capability to fix it. And if you knew how long I spent on YouTube and Google trying to figure it out, and I was finally like,
"No, you can't."
This is what it is.
So for what it's worth, like I went to school to be an audio engineer. I clearly didn't end up using that, but
I know you probably use it. I think you use it.
Well, I mean, I use it with my music, but
right.
Like the idea at the time was like, I'll go to school to like be an engineer and make money that way. But for what it's worth, like in my experience, when you have a bad audio signal, there's only so much you can do. Like you can cut out a bunch of low end. You can cut out like when you have spectrums of the audio channel itself, there's nothing you can do because all you can do is take away things. You can't put back stuff that, clearly isn't there. So when I heard that, I was like, oh shit.
Now that we've shot the shit and we talked about anything we were supposed to talk about, again, welcome back to the show. I'm going to try to keep us a little more like to the point, which is easier to do when Brent's not cracking jokes, but it's probably less entertaining to listen to. I am not as funny as y'all's Uncle Brent.
It's all right.
Unless I'm drinking, and then I'm hilarious.
There was the comment of wine, so I don't know. Maybe it is worth revisiting. But
no, I feel like that'll fuck up the long COVID healing process, so I'm not going to do it.
That's the smart play. All right, no, we're good. I mean, listen, like it'll be a slightly darker podcast. Let's do it.
Hey, you know what? The stranger things have happened. Like I've had people on here that I was like, I'm not going to get anything from this, and gotten 1,000 downloads, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I get nothing on the next 4 or 5 people, and I'm just like, I don't understand the algorithm. It would be helpful if it stopped changing every 3 days.
Yeah,
it's the same with TikTok, Instagram, with all the streaming platforms. I used to say I don't know what the magical combination is. Like, what do I need to put in the cauldron? And now I've decided it doesn't matter. We're just going to manifest the best.
I'm with that. I'm in the process of trying like a multitude of different things on TikTok, and I'm just like, all right, well, the people who showed up seem to like it, and that's cool. But like, it's still, I'm not going wide on much. Like every like 40th or 50th post.
Yeah, I'm getting about 200, and then like at random, it'll be like 1,000 plus, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
And it won't make there's nothing in common when that happens with those 2 videos or with those 2 podcast episodes. There'll be like different genres. It makes no sense. So if you're out there trying to promote your music, don't feel bad. We have no idea what we're doing. No one fucking does. You're not alone.
I'm working on it. I'm watching all the content creators tell me what I should be doing. And I'm trying out a bunch of shit. There are a handful of things that have worked, but, man, it's like how many posts can I do with like text on the screen being like, congratulations, you just found? Because like,
that's pretty much what I'm doing.
it works to reel people in, but like it doesn't give like, it's nothing's giving me that like breakout post or anything. And now I'm just like, well, I've got like 4,000 followers on TikTok. I'm like, I'm just gonna focus on
How did you get 4,000? I haven't even. Oh my god.
Yo, like honestly, if you go and look on my TikTok page, currently about 2/3 of my posts are the same text on the screen, right? Which is like what we, it's like outward facing marketing where it's like, I'm going to bring people from the outside in. And those posts with the text on the screen saying like, congratulations, you just found an unknown indie artist and some other stuff and like, for fans of like that usually gets me somewhere between, like 10 and 30 followers per post. And it's just me looking at the camera, like waving, like I might be doing something with a guitar, and then there's a song playing in the background, and like that's it. And then about 1/3 of the posts are me actually talking to, you know, the people who come back and like, oh, you know, this is where I got the song title from, and you know, this is what this song is about, and here's a recording process, or like, here's me randomly yelling about the new headphones I got today, like shit like that. But it's like, you know, me being a person, right? And trying to show like, you know, what I'm up to, even if it's just like I'm driving in the car and yelling about how I wish there was a coffee maker, you know, right there in my dashboard. Some people do find it entertaining. Like that's how I got that. So now that I have 4,000, I'm like, this is a solid base. Let me try to talk to these people who thought, you know, like, hey, I like music enough to follow this artist and see if I can, you know, like actually kind of get that going. Because if I post and every time I post I get to 200 people, but it's not 200 people who are following me, I'm like, well, how do
you bring them in?
Yeah,
I want to hit the 1,000 mark, and I'm not anywhere near it. I was late to the TikTok game, though. We were late to the TikTok game.
Yeah.
And there's a zillion other podcasts, which is also another thing. But nobody like us, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, I want to get to 1,000 so I can start doing live stuff, because I think that's where you get them and keep them. But you have to have so much of a number before you can do that. Like, you can do that now.
Yeah.
I can't.
Maybe try doing that text on the screen, you know, like, but towards like the podcast.
I'll keep it up. I needed that little break. We all had a break, I think. Do we have any new Artemis and Brooks collabs coming up?
So we just released like a week ago, Please Hold, which is it's like his song, and he was like, hey, you know, do you want to do some stuff on here? So like there's like some minor instrumentation that I added to it, and then like I had my own verse. Which like we recorded this song, I don't know, like 4 months ago, like a while ago. And it had just kind of sat there. And I was never really like wild about my verse. I'm like, I don't know. Cause like the subject material, again, like I don't rap. So when I do rap, I feel like it kind of has to be like not an aggressive performance. But, you know, it's got to have like some fuel, some fire behind it in terms of like the lyrical content. Like, well, how angry can I be being on hold? And you can get very angry, but like me personally, I was like, I don't know. And went through a couple of iterations of that verse and sent it back to him. And he was like, this is what you got to do. And he was like kind of coaching me. I was like, hey, this is cool. It's kind of new. And got it to a place where he liked it. And then we just sat on it. And he was like, hey, you know, I'm going to think about putting it out as a single. And I was like, dude, do you like this? Like, because we're at that point now where I'm like, well, in my mind, right? I'm like, well, maybe he's just being nice. You know, he's trying to help me out, trying to give me a platform, right? I'm like,
he's kind. Yes.
Yeah. You know, and I was like, dude, I am kind of uncomfortable with it. I feel like it's not the best. And he's like, well, if you don't like it, we don't have to put it out. I was like, wow, this is where I want you to tell me. Do you like it? I was like, because he raps all the time. I was like,
you're like, you can just take my verse out. I'm good with it.
So like. It actually, like, he showed me a version. He's like, so here's what it would sound like without. He's like, but dude, I really liked what you did. And I was like, well, if you're sure of it. So then he sends me back a mix where he put me back in. And I had some additional instrumentation. And he put, I'm like, you think I would have thought of this? A telephone EQ on my whole verse. And I listened to it and I was like,
damn, that's genius.
I was like, oh, this sounds way better now. Yeah, he's like, I wanted to play to your character. Because like that's how he thinks about, you know, a lot of these songs are like they're playing a character. And like whenever I do my own songwriting, like for the Brooks of York stuff, it's really about things that have happened to me, and usually like very depressing things. And so I had to get in this mindset of like a character. I'm like, oh, that's fucking brilliant, man. And so when I heard it, I was like, oh, I like this now. This is great. He's like, all right, sweet. He's like, let's put it out. And so anyway, did that. I have I'm going to be doing another remix album, or like 7-song album. So I don't know. It's an album by Spotify standards, but for me, 7 songs is like this kind of in between area. I have like 4 of them in the works right now. It's probably going to be like a May or June thing. But there's a handful of singles that we have that are either done or about to be done. And so we'll just kind of see where that goes. But, yeah, there's a handful of things that are in the works for both of us. So, and I think he's working on, Chaos 2, and I'll likely be on some of those songs.
Nice. Yeah, I like it when you guys work together. You really complement each other well.
he's working on his Ghost Servo project, which is more like serious music, like really synth forward, like not industrial, but kind of like with some of those.
That way. Yeah.
Yeah. So like his song Middle, that's what he calls like his Ghost Servo of, I guess like genre. And that's what the whole Ghost Servo, song stuff is going to be. And I was like, dude, I want to be on.
Yeah. You're like, I want that.
I
want that. Taking me back to the 90s, Artemis.
That his song Middle is probably my favorite song of his. And, I'm just like, I want to do more of that, but, we'll see where that goes. But yeah, so there, yeah. There are more things. I'm excited.
Well, let's jump into one of the songs that you sent me, which I've heard most of your stuff.
I appreciate that.
We're gonna start with Snow Bear. It's just really pretty, and it has like a Coldplay vibe to me. But cool. That build up and the bridge. Could you elaborate on your writing process on that? It's just about the middle, and you do this on a couple of your songs where there's this. You think it's like the sweet song, and then it slowly builds towards the middle, and it goes up, and it's so nice, and then it just sort of stays there.
It depends what you consider to be, because I've had this conversation with a couple people, and they're like, oh yeah, like the chorus on Snow Bear. For me, the chorus on Snow Bear is like there are two very loud sections, and that's the chorus. But other people, it's what I think is the bridge, which is right before the chorus or my chorus. So I'm like, shit, which part are we talking about?
I think I'm talking about because it builds. A lot of your songs do that. They kind of, which is funny because that's how my stuff is. I started it and you're like, oh, and then like I just keep adding shit to it, and you seem to do the same thing. Like it's like you're playing with musical Legos. In my head, I'm like, okay, I need to stock this here now.
Yeah.
It's like audio. It's like audio Legos. That's all I got.
So I know, I dig it. I always think of it in layers. So, whenever I repeat a part, I'm like, okay, I'm either going to add some layers to this, right? To like create renewed interest. And at first I was like, this is a tactic that I want to do just to keep people interested. And then like I started doing it and I was like, well, I don't want to hear the same thing. So I want to add more layers to this. But, if it's a part I'm thinking of, I mean, like you want to talk about like the writing process?
Yeah.
So, like that song was one of the few songs I did, in an actual studio. So I worked with Sam, to varying degrees on every one of these songs. And I write a lot while I'm recording, which for him was kind of like, so you're going to come in the studio without a fully written song? I was like, well, we're going to flesh it out like while we're there. So there was a lot of just like, hey, loop those 8 or 16 bars, and I'm going to, because I had like the foundation, right? But I didn't have like the secondary lines or lead lines from a guitar standpoint or even the keys. So I'd work all that stuff out, in the process. But it's gotten to a point now where, I just loop it and then I play along to it. And early on, Sam would be like, hey, like, this is cool. You have some notes that are creating too much tension and they're actually clashing right here and right here. Mm-hmm. And so we go through and flesh that out. I spend enough time working with him now where like now I start to think, okay, what would Sam say?
What would Sam say, right?
Like,
what would Sam do?
Yeah. No, cause like he's an incredible producer. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that is just like looping it over and over again and going, okay, what can I add? What can I add? Even if it's just like whole notes here. If you break down a lot of what I do, I almost always use vibes, like a vibraphone, and there will be like either whole or half notes, that I'll add in there. And it's just, I don't know, it's chimey. It's pretty. It goes really well with my guitar tones. I feel like they're very complementary, but, I also try to like, for most of my stuff that is softer, I try to play the guitar less like a guitarist and more like just how can I make this prettier? Because I've had people go like, what like keys patch is that? And I was like, that's all guitar. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I was going to ask. See, Brent that was a Brent question that I missed that Brooks heard. He was like, what would Brent ask us? Because he'd have picked up on that. He'd have been like, what was that?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it like pretty often. So now I'm just like, oh, in times like this, I kind of try to talk about it because, like, for me, for the first time, somebody said that to me. They were like, oh, I thought that was a keys patch, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, but I also recognize that like I don't play guitar like a conventional guitarist, and for a lot of reasons because I can't. But play to your strengths, I guess. I don't know if that answered your question. But
no, that's perfect.
Learn to bide my time while I discover. Breathe it in and fight it out, begin again. Patience and reason. Impulsive and erratic undercover. Always wishing I had so much more to give to monuments that love. Had to lay it down. Hard to let it go. Your reckoning, malevolence, taking up the throne. Always wayward bound, but like to the unknown. At our expense, I'm just tired of ghosts. Restitution fraying from the fold. We gave up resolving long ago. All your mistakes for this. We were just pawns. Had to lay it down. Hard to let it go. Your reckoning, malevolence, taking up the throne. Always wayward bound, but like to the unknown. At our expense, missing links where love and lies collide. Now the silence fills what you were guarded.
How would you describe your sound to somebody who hadn't heard it before? I'm trying new questions, Brooke.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, like, I try to like answer things as succinctly as possible because like I don't have a long attention span. So in the early days, or the first like year or two of Books of York, I submitted my stuff to get reviewed. And there's this writer, Amelia Vandergast. I think I'm saying her name right. And in one of she wrote 2 pieces on me. And in one of those, she described my sound as indie dream pop. And I saw that and I was like, yeah, because like it's indie, but like indie can mean so many different things. And it's certainly poppy, but the dream element for me was like, yeah, it is kind of dreamy or mostly dreamy at times, like whether that's a good or a bad thing. But I was like, that's great. I'm using that.
So you've been at this music thing for a while. It can be easy to lose the inspiration and the drive and to get discouraged. How do you keep that from happening?
So it has happened a handful of times. I mean, Brooks of York is really the reincarnation. It probably isn't it, but like it was really me understanding that if I don't play music, if I don't write music, like I become the worst version of myself. So with this project, as much as I want this thing to take off, as much as I want this thing to even just like break even, right, where I can make music and it pays for itself, I'm at a point in my life where I recognize that like I've got to make music in order to not lose my mind. And at this point, like just be a decent human being to the other human beings who are in my immediate vicinity, my kids and my spouse.
That is, I think, something a lot of artists can understand.
Yeah, but I took, so prior to Books of York, I took almost 3 years off and like, was not a very good person. So when I started to come back to it, one of the things that I worried about, because like prior to that, I was in bands, right? Mm-hmm. You do the band thing, you got to go to
and
rehearsal.
At least an outlet, yeah.
Yeah, but like you got to go to rehearsal, which is not in your home, right? It takes time to get there. You've got to be there for a few hours for it to be worth it. You got to pay for the rehearsal spot. You got to lug gear. You got to pay for all this gear, and it got to a point, right? Where it was really starting to take a toll, like on my relationship with my spouse. And when I started like writing and recording music again, it was kind of me like looking over my shoulder going like, is this okay? She's like, no, you're good. You're good. Like I get it. Yeah,
you're doing it. And you're a happier person. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. And like she saw and understood that, I think well before I did. So, it's really nice to come back to it. Because like for me, it felt like I'd stopped playing music for much longer than 3 years. But it's gotta be there.
Yeah. And how do you fight writer's block? Because we all get it. And when we're under a lot of stress, such as late stage capitalism, it can become hard. It can become hard to really put it out there. It's like for me, and yeah, listeners, I'm asking for me. I can get like the first verse and I can write, like I've got like the general beat line and the harmonies. And then that's like, it's like the brain shuts down. It's because there's all of this. So how do you deal with that? Especially as a parent.
Sure.
Because then you have all of that.
I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I'm going to try it. Yeah, I've had people ask me, they're like, how did you know that like she was the one? Like, how did you know that this person was going to be your partner? I was like, I don't know. Like, it just like, I saw her, feelings, butterflies, drive, pull. It was like just unlike anything else I'd ever felt. I was like, you gotta go after that.
Y'all are lucky, by the way.
Yeah,
blessed,
100%.
Blessed.
But when I think about like writer's block, for me, I kind of try to like turn that around, and I try to recognize, okay, in this moment, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I need to go pick up a guitar or sit in front of my keyboard because there's like a certain urge that comes about. And, inspiration, creativity, like call whatever you want. But I'm like, I got to go do that. And more often than not, I'm in a spot where I can. And I've learned through a lot of trial and error, like not to force the whole thing out, right? So like when you're talking about like, oh, I get like a verse down or like, maybe like a part and a half down. I kind of know inside 5 minutes of trying to write the next part to this when I need to stop. And because like there was a time like prior to quitting music for like 3 years where I would sit down in front of my computer with my guitar and I would just be like, I would get the inspiration, write the thing, and then try to force the chorus, force the bridge. And I would be there for hours and I would get to the point where I would be falling asleep with my guitar in hand.
And you're just frustrated enough. What's happening?
Yeah. And so, I finally, like one night was just, doing the Books of York thing. I was like, I don't have that much time anymore. So it's like, whatever I can get out and work, I'm cool. Got it. And I've just kind of like learned to recognize where that is. And then I just come back to it when I can. Working with Artemis has provided a lot of inspiration, but I've also used things like Arcade, when doing remixes for him, which fill in a lot of the gaps. So if you or anybody else who's listening to this needs, something to kind of like fill those gaps or give you extra inspiration, like Arcade by Output. I hope one day like I get endorsed by them. But like it's wonderful. Even if you haven't used it, if you just like go on YouTube, like you'll hear people talking about it in a similar manner. Like it's amazing because they, you can just go ahead and use that shit. Like the truth is, like a lot of the sample kits they have, it's a full song. So I try not to use the full song. So I'm like, that feels.
Yeah, there's something I use that's kind of like that.
Yeah. So like that for me has been great for the remixes because I'm like, all right, sweet. Like this is like the modern age of using samples. And now I'm like, oh, I get why people do this. Like this is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. But it's also a different way to look at music. So while I don't really do that a ton in my own music, that has provided like a different kind of outlet when working with Artemis and approaching things from a remix standpoint.
Yeah.
And so, being just incredibly ADHD, start one thing over here, hit a roadblock, and I'm like, all right, well, I still have some time. What can I work on? If I can't do like a TikTok emo cover, I'm like, all right, something for Artemis in this realm. And I've started working with a couple other artists. I'm like, all right, cool. Let me just come over and touch that and listen to it and go and see if I get any kind of inspiration, even if it's just like, let me balance out a level or go, that right there doesn't work. Let's just get rid of it. Like I feel like with the amount that I have on my plate, there's always some kind of progress to be made. So if you can recognize when you hit a wall and just stop, do that. Like watch a shitty movie or take a walk or go to bed.
Maybe
like,
you're just
whatever.
tired. I'm always tired. So.
I mean, like, I think like if an artist can recognize when they've hit a wall and just walk away from it, that's what has worked the best for me. Cause then I don't get burnt on that thing. Like I'm so frustrated when I walk away, but then I have all that time, back that I didn't just waste and go like, let me just put like 4 chords together. This sucks. Because the following day I listen to it and I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, long answers. Long answers.
No. That's okay.
We're used to it.
So let's talk about another song. Let's talk about Oh My Robot. I love the guitar in the beginning of that.
Thank you.
The drums at 2:40, when the drums kick in at about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, are just, so good.
Tell us about that song.
So Oh My Robot. So the title comes from my eldest, who at the time was working with some clay, and he was creating like a figure out of it, and it all fell apart. He goes, "Oh, my robot." And he was like 3.5, and at the moment it was like, oh yeah, that sucks. Like the thing fell apart, but it was also like one of those like very innocent, youthful, like cute moments where I was like, that's like really wholesome. I'm gonna write that down. The lyrical content is about trying to create life, get pregnant and like stay pregnant, and then dealing with that on the fence. Is it going to work this time? Is it not going to work this time? And the feelings that kind of swirl around that. There's a line in there about like little feet that aren't here yet. And like, I kind of liken that to if you've ever had a cat and, the cat like rounds the corner and then eventually the cat isn't there anymore, right? But you still see that fucking cat round the corner, right? And they're not there anymore, which first time I experienced that, I was like, what is going on? But it's a similar concept where like you're anticipating them being here, and we would be looking around at our two existing children and feeling like there should be somebody else here, and they weren't, and like looking for them, this person that, you know, had never been here, you know, in the outside world yet. So that's kind of what that line was about. And at the time that I was writing and recording that, because I apparently write and record at the same time, she was pregnant. It did not work out, and the shit was super sad. So I actually didn't listen to that song for a long time, until the other child, which brought another child with it, 2 children came at the same time, and then I could listen back to it. Yeah. Which was like, I was like super happy, but also like, oh man, I'm going to be so tired. And I am very tired. Yeah. I mean, the like writing that song or trying to record that song was tough because I wrote that part on acoustic guitar. I had to play it on acoustic guitar. And anybody who's ever played acoustic guitar, but really plays electric guitar, it's like, I got to go in and like nail this performance on acoustic guitar that I don't play all the time. And, I got hip checked real hard. Sam was looking at me like, are you okay? I was like, I'm going to lay down this as a scratch track. It's going to be played in time to the grid. We're going to get all the other stuff going. And I'm going to come back for a second session and nail the acoustic part. He was like, okay, we can do that. And cause it was one of the first times you looked at me like, you are not playing this well. This is bad. But, that's a large reason why the majority of the other guitar parts are electric. So I was just like, we're not gonna, this is not gonna be a fully, acoustic song. And so like when the bridge hits, you know, there's other things going on. And I think I wrote the bridge entirely on electric guitar.
Crescent moon and endless stars, science fiction, fake me home, pull me back and pull apart. Ooh, lights and tunnels through the dark, faces through a telephone. She's the fire and the spark. Ooh, hello from the start to you. She will be just fine. She holds you and take you in her arms and mine too. If you come into the light, I told you. Looking around the corner for little feet that aren't here. You would know there's something more. Ooh, wanted but you can't explain. Feeling that becomes a name. Little miracles to marvel and inspire you. Shining lights that beg your face. Hello from the start to you. She will be just fine. She holds you and take you in her arms and mine too. If you come into the light, like I told you, like I told you, like I told you, like I told you. Take the air that she breathes while you come to life inside. Open every day is another told you, like I told you.
Okay.
It's so weird without Brent. I can't.
It's okay. I'm having a good time.
Good. I'm glad.
It could be a different podcast. It could be
It
a
is.
shorter podcast.
It'll be fun.
Brent, get better. Jeez, take some emergency.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
I
It's
hope
probably
it-
like, shut up, bitch. Last year you were awful.
So who are you listening to these days?
You know, I don't listen to a lot of music, which translates into I don't listen to enough music.
Yep.
I have, I've started doing, I've only done two. I've got a third one that I'm hopefully going to put out tomorrow, but I've started doing, emo covers on TikTok where
I
I'm just
asked
trying to
about
pull,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I've been trying to pull them into like completely different spectrum, like more my sound, but as I like mess with it, I'm like, I don't even know if this is my sound. This is a different, but, in doing so, I have like asked people like, hey, like, what do you want to hear? And I've had a handful of things that like I've never heard of. And one today was a band called Mineral. And the guy was like, I was like, cool. Like, this is great homework. And he's like, wait, you really don't know who this is? And
No idea who that is either.
I'm not going to bullshit you. Like,
I have
no,
no
I
idea.
just, I don't know. And he's like, oh, I'm the only like sad, Midwest emo boy. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go listen to it. Like this would be cool.
It's called what? Mineral?
It's called Mineral. Yeah. It's spelled regular.
I know that.
I listened to like one song before I got pulled into a different direction, but from 1998 or maybe even before. And I was like, I don't know if this is. I was like, is this emo? I was like, is that the? But like maybe it's like the predecessor of, or maybe I just don't have my timelines right. But it sounded like a more modern Nirvana almost. There was like some grunge elements to it. I was like, this is kind of cool. Like again, it was one song. I didn't get to listen to the rest of it. But I have like 10 songs where I'm like, I don't know who this is. But then somebody was like, what about Something Corporate? And I was like, I should go back and listen to them. So like, I've been listening to a lot of like, early 2000s, emo or like, emo adjacent, music lately. Yeah. I was trying to think like, it's like stuff that can be emo, but isn't necessarily like when I think of Something Corporate, like I don't think emo, I think like more like pop rock of that era, but maybe I'm wrong. But I had enough people with Something Corporate. I'm like, okay, maybe there's
Something
shit. And then there's
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
yeah, something. So the band name is Something Corporate. Are you familiar with Jack's Mannequin?
No.
Oh, all right. So I was just gonna be like, well, that's he went on to
That's
do a
okay.
solo project.
I need new stuff. Something corporate.
And then was it? Oh shit! What do they call it? Ocean Avenue. Which I think most.
That one sounds familiar.
Yeah. But for me, it was like, so I think of them and I'm like, that's like more pop punk. And then, a bunch of people were like My Chemical Romance. I'm like, yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
So I've gone back and listened to them. So I'm working on a Helena cover or Helena. I always pronounce it Helena. It's probably wrong. But yeah. So it's been mostly a lot of like older stuff. I mean, I was listening to Genesis and Phil Collins the other day, mostly just to like figure out like, hey, what should I be covering? Because I get so many people being like, you do sound a lot like Phil Collins. I'm like, all right, well, but yeah, so I've been listening to like, early 2000s, like I guess, some Phil Collins and Genesis, lately. I have been listening to Somnatech, which I did.
Always.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I was listening to the Manchester Orchestra. Again, like just trying to find like songs to cover.
Let's talk about Imaginate.
Sure.
We talked about this before on the show, but just remind our listeners about it.
Yeah. So it was another, kind of, I wanted to do another like acoustic-esque type song. That song in particular, I wrote for my wife, and it was, I wanted to do a love song, not like a love song, but like I wanted to do a song that, showed her that I loved her, and yes, the reasons why, but also recognize that she loved me despite all this shit that I need to work on as a person, as a parent, and as a partner. Cause that for me, at least at this point in my life, is that's invaluable, right? When I kind of put that together, and the line is, it's the way you separate me from the things that complicate me. And, it was one of the few times where I was writing lyrics and I was like, yeah, that's it. That's good. I'm still super proud of that line. I try not to have filler lyrics, cause I fucking hate it. Even though the best acts have it, and nobody gives a shit. But just for me personally, I was like, and in a song that's going to be about her, I'm like, I gotta I'm meticulous with all of them, but for that one in particular, I'm like, all right, just none of this can be it's all gotta be, at least for me, right? It's one of those things where I was like, when and if she sits down and looks at these lyrics, I want her to know. So yeah, I mean, the song lyrically, that's what it's about. And I think, it's been really interesting. I guess not the people who listen to my stuff are my age, a little bit younger and a little bit older, right? So hovering around 35 to 50. And it's been really interesting because I view TikTok as a young person's, platform. Yeah. So I just kind of assumed that I was going to pick up a bunch of younger people, kind of by default, which in hindsight, it's no, that's dumb because music I'm writing is influenced heavily by people, from 20, 30 years ago. So I'm getting people on there, and when I go on and talk about this stuff, they're like, that's really cool. I like that. And it hits a different level. And I think, not that somebody who's in their 20s wouldn't be able to understand that line or the sentiment behind it, but I think it does resonate with people who are 40-ish above and slightly below. From a musical standpoint, that was the first song that I used any kind of sampling on. It was I was really the first time I messed with arcade, and it's there, it's in the background, it's super mellow acoustic guitar with electric guitar, but there's a fair amount of synth work. Which was really fun. But I think that song, I don't use any real drums, so it's all either samples or which is electronic stuff that's in there. So it was fun to put together. But it's one of my shorter songs, and it was the first time for me that was maybe I should write slightly shorter stuff. I was also thinking about it from the standpoint of if I'm going to force my wife to listen to a song, doesn't have a ton of time to do it. I was like,
right, she's a busy lady.
Yeah, I was like, so whatever it is, 2:20 or 2:15. I was like, that's good. It's good. We're good. Perfect. I don't have to make this any longer. A lot of Dashboard influence on that. At least when I listen to it from a guitar standpoint, I'm like, all right, that's kind of where my head's at. But yeah.
Cover me in your warm night and push me to be so much more than I tried. It's not new, but it feels like every time when you touch me, I fly. It's the way you separate me from the things that complicate me. Changes more time, meeting sooner or creating further hours in the day to entwine. I couldn't stop if I wanted. It's the way you separate me from the things that complicate me.
advice for artists new on the scene right now?
In terms of like writing or social media or recording.
What do you think's more helpful right now?
If you're a musician or an artist and you don't have like, 2 or 3 songs that you polished up to some degree, like that's probably step one. As long as you have your stuff out there on like every platform, and then DistroKid or CD Baby is a great way to do that. Then get your ass onto TikTok and start putting yourself out there. I'm still figuring that part out, but I feel like I've gotten a lot more comfortable being in front of the camera and talking, and then kind of trying to be myself and less be like a character, or like be like this thing I think people want me to be. And that's been pretty freeing, but I try to post like 2 or 3 times a day, and some of the stuff pokes through the algorithm and gets me some good responses and followers. I have seen my Spotify listener count our follower count go up, which like, yes,
great.
It's like, I want the listener count to go up. Yes. But like, it won't, like one doesn't go up without the other. Like retention in terms of like, people coming back and listening and being like actually liking it. Like you got the one listen, but did they follow you? Did they like you enough to say like, I want to come back. I want to remember this. I want to flag this for later. And utilizing TikTok has helped me a lot in that way. Like the last 2 months, each month I've garnered about 100 new followers on Spotify, which I haven't done before. And like a lot of that's working with Artemis Wall. So like on that note, I would say, and this is a tactic I think a lot of people have employed, right? But if you can find somebody with about the same fan base or more as you, and then try to collaborate with them so that you can kind of like utilize each other's base of listeners, right? Like you expose one base to it. So if you have like 50 followers on 50 monthly listeners on Spotify and they have about the same, it's like, all right, cool. We'll try doing a song together, or at least interacting with each other and supporting each other on social media platforms, because you will get some of that crossover. And that's something that I'm trying to employ a lot more this year. So there's a couple artists that have like one reached out to me and was like, hey, like I'd love to do a song with you. And we talked about it, and like, guy's got a great voice, great songwriting. He's like more R&B pop, which like I dig. And then there's another artist who is more like indie folk, who's actually blowing up right now. And I've been telling him for a while, I'm like, it's only a matter of time until enough people hear your songs, and then they start telling their friends and their friends and their friends. But like he was at 1,500 monthly listeners in December, and he's at 11,000 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone. That's if you want more homework, Weatherhead is the name of that artist. So when you get to the THER, you drop the E. It's just THR. Everything else is spelled regular. And then so the other artist who's like more R&B or like soul influence is Paul Bill Jr. So I'm hoping to have a song or two with both of them this year, and I've got a couple things in the works already. So we'll see where that goes. But collaboration, be on social media and have 2 or 3 songs that you can actively push. That's what I'd say is the best thing you can do.
All right, where can people find you and your music? Because I want to let you go. I've had you up. Per usual, I get Brooks on the show and have him on for an hour and a half, and only 40 up is for listeners.
No, it's all good. I'm on all streaming platforms. So whether you listen on Spotify or Amazon, YouTube, or you pick Deezer, Pandora, like whatever it is, like it's there. You just have to search Brooks of York, all one word, and it will be there.
Anything else you want to tell people? Again, God, you've been on here with Artemis twice. Once with Wide Waters, and 3 times as yourself, twice as yourself. So 5 times? 6 times.
Yeah. It's been a few times.
You're just family now.
No, I'm happy to be here. My favorite color is purple. My favorite fruit to eat is apple, like on the daily. If I'm being fancy, definitely mango. And if I could sleep for 8 hours every night, I would be a happy person.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show, Brooks. We love having you.
Hey, you for having me. This is awesome.
Brent, feel better.
Brent, we love you.